everyone. I'm Rihanna Bag, Editor-in-Chief of Machine Design. I'm joined today by Karan Talati, CEO and co-founder of First Resonance, who has kindly agreed to talk to us about trends in integrated manufacturing processes. So, Karan, I am really pleased that you're here with me today. It's a pleasure to meet you.
It's great to meet you. Thanks so much for having me on. I think it's such a great time to talk about this topic, and I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Absolutely. So, as I understand it, First Resonance is a company that makes software that supports making hardware. That's the best way for me to understand it in my mind, but I want you to break it down for me. Is that a fair characterization?
I think it's a good one. Yeah. At First Resonance, we build the Ion Factory operating system. It helps manufacturers conduct the day-to-day operations in their factory, as well as it's underlined with technology to really help manufacturers move forward in an era of connectivity and data. But hardware is hard, as they say. So getting some help from software and data is the way to make that a little bit easier.
If I asked you, what problem does Ion solve for a manufacturer, what would you say?
Absolutely. So for a typical manufacturer, especially manufacturers in industries that build complex hardware, you could think of industries like aviation, aerospace, defense, energy, robotics, automotive, industries that make products with multiple levels of the BOM, multiple manufacturing processes that go into an integrated piece of hardware, like an airplane, car, or nuclear reactor. Manufacturing really is a team sport. And there's a lot of parts that come into the factory that get transformed through multiple levels of the process. We help companies solve that problem of that team coordination, if you will, as well as that complex supply chain. You can imagine, and as we've seen over the past few years, things like supply chain disruptions, missing just one part, a critical chip, for example, could lead to an entire, hardware operation getting off the tracks because of that rigidity in the bill of materials that's originally defined. In an era where manufacturers need to adapt to that supply chain change and dynamism, it can be quite difficult to do all of that manually. So Ion is, a factory operating system that helps manufacturers coordinate these processes, helps manufacturers get ahead, by making proactive decisions on their inventory and supply chain, as well as adapt to changes by swapping out parts when necessary, as just an example of that kind of highly coordinated team effort that goes into delivering something as complex as an airplane or a car or a nuclear reactor.
I'm curious to know how you got into this business. Tell me a little bit about your own background, and then bring me up to speed now. Today, I want to talk about current trends.
Absolutely. So I got out to Los Angeles about 11 years ago to work at this exciting new startup called SpaceX. I never thought I'd end up out here in Los Angeles. To me, I thought it was just beaches and Hollywood, but we have this amazing legacy and history of rich aerospace heritage here in Los Angeles. So I spent a number of years at SpaceX building some of the first applications in automation, connecting things like machines, connecting the engineering side of the rocket development to the production side in real time. And that was an amazing experience. We really thought about things from a first principles perspective. What is the latest and greatest in technology? What are the problems that we have to solve? And at that time, really what we put a lot of value on was, how do we improve and increase the velocity of our engineering to manufacturing iterations, right? How do we get good information from engineering down to the shop floor and then quickly get that data back up to make more rapid decisions and improve the product? We thought very deeply about that and employed some of these tactics of modern APIs and connectivity. We created new interfaces to machines that were never created before because of the very disconnected nature of what manufacturing looked like in kind of the industry 2.0 and industry 3.0 eras. So we picked up a thing or two. We learned about supply chain. We learned about kind of process control, and also had a vision of really what the factory of the future could look like. And when we saw the early inklings of what we're now in, right? A rise in people solving problems in climate tech and energy, for example, new applications in aerospace that are significantly cheaper, and available. We knew that there was an opportunity and a need to actually bring those same principles out to the market so that we could support these modern manufacturers, not just with great technology, but also with a system that is as flexible and scalable as they're going to need to be in an era where efficiency and cost control is a lot more important than it was in, for example, the 20th century kind of economies of scale manufacturing programs, right? So that's when we started the company about 5 years ago now. And we're very excited about the progress and the customer base that we've developed.
Absolutely, and congratulations on your success so far. I would finally also like to have you focus on market trends right now. What are some of the overarching trends as you see it as we go through 2024?
Yeah. So as a result of the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act that came out last year, we're already seeing the early inklings of a lot of investment going into factory development here in North America and globally. In fact, there was a news report that came out about Apple diversifying its supply chain and manufacturing footprint to Vietnam and India, for example. We do know that the cost of supply chain logistics have actually gone up quite significantly. And that's actually forcing manufacturers to bring manufacturing closer to the area of application. So, globalization is a relatively complex topic. It has a big history. We're seeing those early trends of what does a more diversified global supply chain look like. And as a result of that, new factories going up. I think one of the things I'm particularly excited for as well is at the same time as this, kind of globalization trend is evolving, we're seeing a shift in one of the most low-level parts of modern hardware, and that's the microchip. So combine the IRA with the CHIPS Act, and I think the CHIPS Act kind of plays into this. But nevertheless, we've seen custom chip development go on from the likes of Google, Apple, NVIDIA for the last many years. I think what's going to happen is these trends are going to culminate in a much more diversified portfolio of types of hardware that people are building. And therefore, different types of factories and different manufacturing technologies going into support the building of those new types of products. As an example, because of the shift in energy, there's an increasing trend in micronuclear reactor or small modular reactor development. Because nuclear technology is going from a large construction project into something that's more manufacturable. You can imagine the types of factories that are required to manufacture those types of new reactors are also very different. They're going to take in a combination of additive manufacturing, composite manufacturing, new types of safety controls and automation in order to build something as complex as a nuclear reactor. So we're very excited about that. We're excited about the increasing trend in solving these energy problems and the convergence of shifted global supply chains with new types of semiconductor manufacturing. I think we're at the early part of the wave of seeing what that all results like, but we're getting those initial glimmers of what those applications can be.
Those are fabulous insights. Thank you. What is next for your business?
Absolutely. I think, we have this great privilege and benefit to be working with some companies that are really showing the industry where the puck is going when it comes to modern manufacturing. Working in a way that's more digitally connected, using new manufacturing methodologies, things like additive manufacturing, composite manufacturing, even modern forging processes, which is amazing to look at. On our end, we're very proud of the software platform that allows manufacturers to connect their workflows in, to get more data and empower this evolving workforce that is more programmatic. What we're also seeing as a trend in the software industry is the rise of AI. And at First Resonance, we've always taken big data and the applications of machine learning very seriously. The recent trends in 2023 only give us more more confidence in where that's going. We have early proof of concepts on using machine learning, for example, to automate decision making. And I think the important thing here is in manufacturing, unlike other industries, you can't automate end to end. These are very safety critical and quality critical applications with a lot of diversity across different work centers. So really what we're focused on at First Resonance is applying narrow ML applications where we're able to increase the accuracy of a certain process by a significant amount, but still containing that and really being a complement to human decision making. But if you're able to apply narrow ML across multiple use cases in a factory over time, you're really transforming the overall behavior of how manufacturers are relating to the digital systems that are powering their business. They'll have more automated decision making, they'll have more accuracy, and they'll also have much more of a proactive assistant in helping them identifying problems before they become problems. So really what they can focus on is the innovation that's really required to push hardware and manufacturing forward, the design iterations that are required for really solving energy or creating things like flying cars or new types of robotics applications or transportation. And so that's what we're really excited about, is really being a co-pilot to the modern engineer, the modern manufacturer, such that they can really focus on the iterations that are required on the hardware space and get closer and closer to really being at like the core physics of what's possible and pushing humanity forward.
That's wonderful. So, Karan, as you co-pilot, I certainly will be following along as well and watching and seeing how this all pans out. It's a very exciting time. So, thank you very much for sharing your insights, Karan Talati, CEO of First Resonance. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you. And to our audience, thank you for watching. I will see you next time.